Hi guys, it's Aoife from Fred VC Died Laughing, and I'm here with a little bit of a different video than I normally do. So there's been a little bit of a discussion recently on BookTube about YA and YA on BookTube, and a majority of booktubers reading YA. And it was kind of like just a little bit of a discussion between booktubers about whether booktube should be reading more literary fiction, kind of expanding away from YA. Why is it that booktube is kind of more associated with YA? All those different kind of things. And I've been listening to a few of the videos, pretty interested because I am a reader of YA while I read other things. I do read a lot of YA and I really love the YA genre and all the trilogies, the famous trilogies, you know, the real popular trilogies that are associated with the YA genre. And I was watching a video by the Book Leo this morning, which I will link down below, and she herself has linked to other great videos on this discussion. And she was just making a point that, you know, it's okay to read YA, and why does there have to be kind of why do we have to mark ourselves as readers of YA or readers of literary fiction or readers of fantasy, kind of that kind of thing. And I just really got what she was saying, and I just had all these ideas going into my head, and I have never done a discussion video before. This is the first time that I've really had the confidence to do one. It kind of goes into the same thing of BookTube autopilot at the time when that discussion was going around, but it was more for me. I do a little bit of autopiloting, yes I do, but it's because of what I'm comfortable with, and I just didn't have the confidence as of yet to branch out to book reviews and book discussions. This year I've already done a couple of book reviews which I'm really happy with, which is what I've wanted to do, and now I'm doing discussions and I'm really happy with that as well. As I've said, things come in time, and I think this can also be brought forward to this discussion as well of YA. And it's just really interesting for me. I'm not 100% sure where the kind of discussion started off, so I'm not going to name people who said what or this person said what, because I'm not actually sure. But I think it was just kind of more of a general discussion about why BookTube is so associated with young adult. And I think we all know that a lot of the bigger booktubers that we all know and love, they love YA just as much as we love YA, and that's okay. And a lot of the big booktubers also read other types of book genres as well. And I think people are kind of afraid maybe that we're just getting bogged down in this fiction that's supposed to be for teenagers. And I think some people maybe feel left out because they can't associate themselves within the characters of YA, so they don't read it, and they might feel left out from the general booktube spectrum. So yeah, so before I get into a tangent, I'm just going to say it's okay to read YA, it's okay to not read YA, it's okay to read literary fiction, and it's okay not to read literary fiction, and that goes for literally every genre. I read pretty much everything I can get my hands on, but for a bigger portion of my reading life, I've read mostly, you know, kind of those younger books for younger readers. Gradually got into YA, read a lot of YA, and as my reading taste developed as I got older, I started to branch out into historical fiction, fantasy, adult fantasy, and then literary fiction, which I've really enjoyed. And I still go back to YA fantasy and just normal YA genres every now and again because I like a break. For me, I'm not someone who can just read one genre for a long time because I just get a little bit sick of it. I like to change it up a lot for my reading. Like, let's just say for my reading this week, I have read The Reluctant Fundamentalist by Mohsin Hamid, and I would think that this is probably literary fiction. It was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize in 2007, as you can see from the cover. So like, this is a pretty interesting read. It's a bit of a different read, but as soon as I finished this, I picked up Ruin and Rising, which is the third book in the Grisha trilogy. So there you go. Those are two really different things. I think a lot of people do this, where they're kind of bouncing back and forth from different genres. I think that's perfectly okay. Like literally right in front of me, I have The Miniaturist, which is by Jessie Burton. I have The Silver Tide by Jen Williams, which is fantasy, adult fantasy. And then I have Born Wicked by Jessica Spotswood, which could be YA. I think sometimes it's easier for people to talk about YA because YA generally it's very fast paced, it's easy to get into, and sometimes the plots are that little bit easier to explain because they're not hugely complicated a lot because they are for, you know, teenagers, they're for young adults, they're not going to be something really, really complicated. And a lot of the time, like, a lot of people that got into reading that are on BookTube at the moment, people who are like kind of in their 20s, near around my age, or a little bit younger, they all kind of started reading Twilight, which is obviously kind of what started off the YA genre. So, and then kind of the next kind of age up is people who were reading Hunger Games, and then people who were reading Shadowhunters. So I think YA as a genre is extremely powerful, and I don't think we should be, I don't know, downsizing it in any way to say that it shouldn't be on BookTube, or we should be kind of pushing it to one side as a genre that people should be embarrassed about reading, or people shouldn't read too much of, because it is a very powerful genre in that it creates readers. People who may be 15, 16, who've never known a love of reading before, can pick up a book such as Twilight, such as The Hunger Games, or the Shadowhunter Chronicles, and suddenly find their love of reading. And for that, for me, is a brilliant thing. It's a magical thing, and people can read YA for the rest of their lives if they're going to keep reading, and I am happy with that. I think everyone's tastes develop. There's definitely some YA books now that I might have read when I was 17, 18, and now as a 24-year-old I'm not quite as eager to dip my feet into. I can't connect with the characters as much as I can in some characters in literary fiction, or some characters in adult contemporary, because they're nearer my age. When I'm reading books about 15, 16-year-olds now as an adult, I'm a little bit like, would this really happen? Would you really think like this? No, would you really do this if you're a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old? And that's just me being an adult, thinking as an adult. And it is so much easier to just read books and accept things as they are when you are a teenager and you are the same age as the person in the book. I think for some people, I'm not speaking for everyone, I was just thinking about me when I was reading it as a younger reader. So yeah, but I think everyone's tastes kind of change and develop as we grow older. We kind of develop as readers, and that doesn't mean that we have to forget about the genre that made us fall in love with reading in the first place, but it does mean we can have the opportunity to branch out and to read more. And I think it's okay to talk about YA and talk about fantasy and talk about anything you want on BookTube, because I think that's why we're here on BookTube. Is this is a place and a platform where we can talk about books, or we can't talk about books anywhere else. At least I know that's what it is for me. I talk about books with my friends, but there's a certain point where I need to stop talking about all the books I read, because I read too much really to justify myself talking about books all the time to all my real life friends. So this is why I come to BookTube, and I have my BookTube friends, and we talk about books all day long, and I'm so happy for that. And it's just that little bit of a freedom of expression. And I think for people, I'm not saying people are saying it, but for there to be almost an assumption that YA shouldn't be on BookTube as predominantly as it is taking away someone's freedom to talk about YA, or someone's freedom to participate in this kind of platform. And I know what I'm trying to say. I don't want to say that people are saying it. I think that BookTube is one place that we don't need to judge other people for what they're reading. I think as a community of book lovers, we should just be enjoying our love of books together, whether it's books that other people aren't really into. Like, there's certain booktubers I follow that I'm not really into the same books that they're reading, but now and again they might read a really interesting book from a genre I never pick up, but their review of it could make me pick it up. And I think this goes for other people who may never read YA, could suddenly be listening to a booktuber that normally reads YA talk about a really interesting YA book, and they suddenly find themselves wanting to pick up a YA book. And I think that's really great. I think that's one of the best things about BookTube, is that we are such a different mix. And I do think that, from maybe the first look, BookTube can seem extremely YA orientated, because a lot of the bigger booktubers are, they're in their early 20s or their late teens, and they're still reading a lot of YA books. But then if you just look a little bit past that, you can start seeing the other booktubers that are bigger, and they're into fantasy or literary fiction and how things are changing. And again, booktubers that would normally talk about YA, as they get older on BookTube, they're also branching themselves out into different genres, and I think that's great. And then as they branch out into different genres, their viewers that are also growing up with them that could be the same age could suddenly find their reading tastes develop as well, and they could pick out the same books, which is, you know, really the power of a very popular booktuber, is that they can get so many other people to pick up different books that you would never really pick up before. And I think we see that a lot on BookTube, where one popular booktuber will pick up a book and suddenly you'll see loads of other booktubers pick that book up as well because they trust this person's recommendation. And I think that would work for YA books, literary fiction books, historical fiction books, all those kind of books. Well, all the books really. I think that's a really, really great thing to see. I'm just so afraid of this kind of discussions going around, making people afraid of talking about their love for books because they read YA, and I don't want that to happen, because I think this is such an amazing community, and I think that like everyone should be able to talk about whatever they're reading, whether it's YA, whether it's middle grade, whether it's fantasy, whether it's anything at all. And yeah, I just think it's great. Like, I don't define myself as a YA booktuber, but I don't have a thing on BookTube. I'm not a fantasy booktuber, I'm not a literary fiction booktuber, I'm not a YA booktuber, I'm an everything booktuber. I can read, in 1 week I can read a YA book, I can read a fantasy book, I can read a science fiction book, I might read a literary fiction book. Who knows? It just depends on the week, depends on how much time I have, depends on what I've gotten from the library, what I have from NetGalley, what I have on my shelves. I can just pick up anything, and that I don't know the week before what I'm going to pick up and what genre I'm going to be reading. And I think that's great. I think other people can be like that if they want to, but if they don't want to, if they just have YA on their shelves, that's okay too. And yeah, while I think a lot of people read YA, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think everybody reads what they want to read. Reading is a magical place. Reading is our safe place, and if YA is someone's safe place, that's okay. And yeah, so I think we should just all read what we want to read. At the end of the day, we're here because we love books and we love people who talk about books, and just because everyone doesn't read the same way we do or the same genres we do, that doesn't mean that their opinion is any less, or that their reading, you know, isn't as accomplished as ours just because they're reading different books than we are. So yeah, I think it's pretty good to remain undefined as a booktuber, but it's also okay if you declare yourself as a YA booktuber or as a fantasy booktuber, because that is your thing, that is your comfort zone. If you want to read those books, and primarily those books, that's okay. As long as you're reading, I'm happy as long as anyone is reading. I want the whole world to read. And I think books are a safe place. BookTube is a great place to talk about it. At the end of the day, we're here to talk about books and about our love of books. And I think that's what matters most. And yeah, so please let me know what you think about this subject, what you think about YA on BookTube. And yeah, just share any opinions you want below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys again next time. So bye.